Okay, hello there. So I really don't like recording, so this time I'm just gonna barge on through whatever comes. So, hello there. And today I want to talk about Stonehenge Apocalypse. See, I bet none of you have actually watched this drag, but seeing as I no longer watch Marvel, Star Wars, or even Star Trek, I have time to watch stuff like this. And it's not even that good, but it's really a lot of fun to hate. And don't get me wrong, the actors are most of the actors are giving it their all, and the script is let's just say it's a bit wonky, but they do try to at least seem like they know something about movies. Not a lot. Don't get me wrong, not a lot. There's a lot wrong with the script. But anyway, you don't have to take my word for it, because I'm going to take you through the entire thing, frame by frame. And so our movie opens with a small montage, which lets us know we are in a radio station, which is surprisingly actually kind of relevant. And the first thing you hear is a voiceover of the DJ telling us we are here because we believe in the truth. On the wall, which serves as a montage of pictures of the DJ's life within the montage, a sticky note reads Robot Head. And believe it or not, this will be the movie's running joke. No, seriously. We are 30 seconds in, and the running joke is established. It isn't a good joke. It is more like they tried to use Robot Head as the joke of the core of the character's story arc, and it falls flat because it's like the second year creative writing or script writing class had learned about running jokes, and so now they know the concept of a running joke and they have to put it in somewhere, and this was what they were able to come up with. And which brings me to the next thing. Even before we see his face, this is the main character, Castiel. Yes, I know the actor's name is Misha Collins, and maybe some of you have seen him in something that proves he is a fabulous actor. This movie, however, isn't it. For some reason, when Castiel walked into Supernatural in season 4, people loved him. I don't get it. And I guess credit where credit is due, Misha Collins did a convincing job of portraying the character of Castiel as an emotionless drone. And at this point, however, I'm forced to ask if that was a stroke of acting genius or if the role just bent itself around Misha's range. Also, honestly, I noped out of Supernatural around that time, so I don't know. I'm talking from experience after watching it over my hubby's shoulder. Now, Dr. Jacob Glazer, this movie's unfortunate lead, is not going to improve at all. See, Misha Collins plays this character with all the aplomb of a brain-dead Castiel. I'm not wrong when I say that Misha Collins has an entirety of one facial expression throughout the entirety of the movie. Is he angry? Is he sad? Is he determined? Was he just shot in the leg? No worries, this expression, this one, will have it covered. And no, the nose wrinkly, that's not expression, that's just the way his face moves when he's talking. Anyway, okay. Now, our other lead in this movie is Tori Higginson of Stargate Atlantis fame. In fact, I'm going to keep a running count of the amount of Stargate alumni in this thing because there's a lot of them. And anyway, the reason why I mention her at this point is because right next to Robot Head, the little sticky note, there is a map with coordinates on it, longitude and latitude. And this is apparently telling us where Atlantis is. Although if you look at the coordinates, they're not really complete, but hey, what do I know? Now, I mention this because, again, is this an homage from the writers, directors, whomever, to Tori Higginson's stint on Stargate? Maybe, maybe not. I feel like this would have been something a second-year film student should know, but I don't know. And you know what? I'm just going to treat this like this was written by a second-year film student. I imagine that they had a film writing contest, and the one with the best scripts got a movie for some reason. And you know what? Which is weird because the directors and writers obviously had done stuff before, and they weren't students. Even in 2010 when this thing came out, these guys were adults. I found these on IMDb, and you know what? IMDb is wrong. This is not done by adults. Anyway, back to our story. And here the voiceover continues, and Castiel informs us that we are here to know the real story. Yes, if this feels repetitive, we're not done yet. And yeah, you have to pay attention to this because it'll be relevant much later, kind of, again. Also, this is the first view we have of Castiel and his stubbly chin, and wow, this man has a lot of chin, and this angle does him no favors. And now we jump to an overview shot of Stonehenge, except I'm 100% sure this is just some kind of CGI abomination henge with a resolution that would not have looked out of place in a late 1990s video game. I mean, look at these things, they are floating. And now we jump to people 10,000 feet under the surface of Maine, America. They are mining in secret, 10,000 feet under the surface, with guns. And just so you know, the rocks look fake. In fact, they look so fake, they make the fake rocks of Star Trek TOS look professional. And in this mine, Apophis Light is, and his minions are uncovering Egyptian hieroglyphs beneath the surface of Maine. Now, I do refer to this guy as Apophis Light because when I watched this the first time, knowing there are several Stargate actors in this, I thought, is this the guy from Stargate, the Apophis? But no, he's just Apophis Light. And I have to ask, how is it that there are Egyptian hieroglyphs in Maine? Don't know. Why can't these be indigenous American writings? Don't know. Especially considering that this movie is based around the idea that there was an ancient civilization or civilizations, and they had interaction with one another, and this is all a connected thing with Stonehenge. The pyramid that isn't in Maine is connected to Stonehenge with Egyptian hieroglyphs, and you would think that they would have some native language written there but no, I have many questions for this movie, and none of them will have good answers. At this point, the biggest guy they could find on set comes in bearing the suitcase with the secret glowing MacMuffin, and the MacGuffin is an Ankh, and it's a flying Ankh, and it opens a secret door. Again, keep in mind, this is all still part of the opening montage. We cut to a group of tourists around CGI Henge, and I guess some of the stones are props, but they don't look like stones at all. They lack texture, weight, I mean, they look fake. They look like the fake stones in the mine. I only suppose some of them are actual props because at some point the actors do interact with them a little bit. Anyway, as the small group of tourists are standing around, the flying Ankh seem to have activated CGI henge and moves. We saw the central stone. Yeah, see, central stone. The rest of it moves around it, around the central axis of the central stone, and it kills the tourists. And the production also uses its only CGI lightning effect. And we're back to Castiel, where we see his radio studio is just in his basement. And he tells us, we're here to hear the real story. Okay, we're done. We won't be repeating that again. And he continues to tell us that he detected a huge electromagnetic burst along the Earth's ley lines or energy grid. And one of these are running from Maine to England. Now, the way this montage is put together is, it seems like this stuff happened consecutively, like he started his program, and then at the same time, or maybe seconds after, or at the time when he started the program at least, Apophis Light activated the flying Ankh, and then the CGI henge moved, and but no, at this point he will tell us he noticed this earlier in the day. So this is not in chronological order, it's not happening even in the same time. The radio montage, the radio part is happening in the afternoon at least, and the rest of it happened in the morning. At this point, with his entire program having been this up to now, literally, I gave you all the words. He now says he's going to turn to the switchboard for some callers, and Brother Man didn't say anything worth phoning in for, but here we are. And of course, the first caller is someone phoning in to tell him that he is a crackpot who accused this National Space Agency of covering up the discovery of aliens on the moon, which is robot head. You know, that's Castiel's answer. It wasn't aliens, it was a robot head. And I told you it was a running joke. And then the next caller is someone from England, or at least someone with a very bad English accent, telling us that Stonehenge moved, or telling Castiel Stonehenge moved. At this point, really, the story would have been served much better if this had been a podcast. I suppose in 2010, podcasts weren't that much around. I don't know, but radio stations are very limited. If you're a not so rich guy having a radio station out of your basement, you will have maybe an hour's worth of radio waves that you can use on a specific channel, and it'll probably cover like several square kilometers. Not a lot. There's no way the signal would be bouncing all the way from Maine in America all the way across the Atlantic to England. And even if it could, why would Englishmen be phoning in or listening to an American show? I mean, I know the Americans have a bit of a main character thing going on there, but I'm pretty sure the English have their own bunch of crackpots. Anyway, not only are these people listening to this guy and his rantings in America, the Englishmen listening to him, they phone him. Not message, not instant message, phone him. Like, picked up a phone and incurred the cost of phoning across the Atlantic just to tell this rando that Stonehenge had moved. I mean, why didn't they phone the BBC or 999 or a local radio station or the National Enquirer or whatever, National Geographic? And apparently the two people who phoned in, they saw this happen, except that if you look on Google, if you hover over Stonehenge and look around, there are literally just two farmhouses you can actually see. And so you're telling me that both of these farmhouses, that someone listening to Castiel in America and then were willing to pay the cost of letting him know that Stonehenge moved. And yeah, we're just doing this so that Castiel, who's in America, can get his rear down on over to Stonehenge. I mean, how else was he going to know? Also, take note that the second caller informs Castiel that Stonehenge has been closed off and there are soldiers everywhere. And again, this begs the question, when did this happen? As I said, according to the intro, it seemed as if this is all happening at the same time, but no, apparently this happened way back, and this guy actually both the callers waited until Castiel's show came on the air later in the afternoon after they saw something very peculiar and then phoned him. Yes, this is what happened. This is exactly what happened. Anyway, inspired by these callers, Castiel leaps into action and takes his stuff. As you can see here, he has MacGuffins, which will all come in handy. The one thing you won't notice is his passport. And then, without his passport, he heads on over to the airport to fly to England. And on his way there, he phones his buddy, Dr. Joseph Lechem. Now, if you thought, as I did the first time, that Lechem would be like a guttural CH, Lechem, you would be wrong. His name's Lechem, Leshem, which makes no sense, but anyway, it's a name. It's his name. It's a Buffer Slight's name. And Castiel asks him if he knows anything about Stonehenge moving. And Buffer Slight then calls Castiel my friend, which is code for I am the bad guy, you know. He's going to be the bad guy. You just know it. At least he tells Castiel that he found something big. However, what he doesn't tell Castiel or us is that a key component of his evil scheme is missing. Now, how will he get that key component? I don't know. In fact, does he even at this point know that this component is missing? Like, this guy dug 10,000 miles under the surface of Maine with a MacGuffin, but he's going to need another MacGuffin. And does he know at this point he needs another MacGuffin? I'm only mentioning it because he will find that out later. Anyway, he does end his phone call cryptically by telling Castiel he should go to Stonehenge, my friend, because it might be your last chance. Bye. Now we cut to a scene with the oldest tank they could find and an old Land Rover to tell us that we are in England at the site, Stonehenge site, which is actually the Salisbury Primary School. And it annoys me so much. These soldiers are shown walking through the flower beds, and I don't know why they look so uncomfortable doing it, and yet they did. And the man being transported by the Landies, Dr. John Trousdale, also known as Tanith from Stargate. And he's heading inside to meet our heroine, Dr. Casey Leeds. Now, before we continue, I should mention that this other lady, she's not of Stargate fame, and she's literally only here to exposition whatever it is we and they are looking at on the computer screen she's sitting at. Even her death is off screen. I also want to point out I know these are stills, but I want to point out, if you ever go watching this, Tori Higginson is attempting a very bad British accent, and it's atrocious. I do not know why the directors failed to tell her it isn't working. I mean, isn't that the job of directors, getting all these people to do stuff? I mean, they didn't get Castiel to do anything except have his one expression, but at least tell the woman the accent isn't working. Anyway, Casey, and yes, we will be calling her Casey because that is how she is credited. She has a degree, a name, a last name. In fact, throughout the movie, they call her Dr. Leeds more often than Casey, and yet in the end, she's only given Casey. If you wanted to Google her full character name, you would also be disappointed because it's just Casey. I don't know what's wrong with these people. Another thing is that she, as I said, she has a title, doctor. She's Dr. Leeds, and except I don't know what she's supposed to be a doctor in. If you have an academic degree that's that specialized, you know something. Actually, you know a lot about a little thing. But somehow she just knows a lot of stuff and then doesn't know some other stuff. I get the feeling that the writers, these second-year writers, had the idea that a female lead opposite Castiel would look nice, and so they put in a woman, and they made her smart, but they didn't bother figuring out what she's smart in. She's just smart. And that way she can know or not know whatever the plot needs her to know or not know. And yes, there's also David. I don't know what David's last name is. I don't know if he's a doctor. He does tell us he's a geophysicist, but I think you just need really like an honors degree to be a geophysicist. And he's also a Stargate alumnus. Now, did I mention they found a funky inscription on the altar stone of CGI Henge? Because they did. Next up, Castiel rolls up in a black cab. This, for those who don't know, is a London black cab. It is a 2-hour drive from London to Stonehenge. So who is paying for this 2-hour long cab drive? And anyway, this cab, this London black cab on Salisbury Plain, stops literally 50 meters away from the military blockade, and then Castiel runs into the forest and jumps over a gate with no fence. And then daytime turns into nighttime, and Castiel emerges unseen from the woods surrounding Stonehenge, you know, where there's supposed to be soldiers everywhere. He's just been chilling in the woods with soldiers everywhere. Also, this looks like a daytime shot that had just been color adjusted to look like a nighttime shot, and it's terrible. We see the scientists from the elementary school taking readings at the henge. Ooh, and then the camera pans dramatically back to Castiel. Again, this is a still, but they start on one side and the camera pans all the way around, and he has this the expression. And yeah, he is acting the heck out of it. At least the scientists are wearing protective suits, I guess, to protect them from the radiation. At this point, Castiel takes out a little recording device, and he takes the time to record his thoughts. And one of the things he asks, I wonder why the government sealed off Stonehenge. And I'm like, brother, it killed several tourists. It's radioactive. Even the scientists are in there with radioactive suits. Maybe, just maybe that has something to do with it being sealed off. I mean, also you know this. And then he takes out a handheld meter that reads EM fields, and again, credit where dubious credit is due. The little meter is a milligauss meter, and that seems to be the thing in real life that reads EM fields. I just don't think this little one is the one he used to read the initial EM disturbances back in the US, you know, the one from Maine all the way to England. Also, you should note, Casey's accent hasn't improved. And hard to see here, but the stone is faintly pulsing with energy, or at least it's making little purple splishes. And although the scientists know the henge was producing EM radiation, none of them seems to have a milligauss reader, you know, like Castiel. So the scientists tasked with figuring out what's happening here are stumped. Which is good that Castiel has been walking up to them and now starts running towards them right in the open, you know, where there are soldiers everywhere. And he, of course, knows what he is looking at with his little handheld device, and he gets to warn them that they should run. I mean, bravo, Castiel, old boy. I mean, you certainly rock this role. I have to note, Casey's first reaction is not to run, but to warn everyone that there's an intruder. And honestly, yeah, that's not the worst reaction. Would you believe Castiel if he came running up to you, saying anything? I wouldn't. He doesn't have a trustworthy face, thank you. Anyway, Casey's warning triggers the major. Yes, there's a major, an English major, to send someone to arrest the intruder, but then the computer lady, who's not from Stargate, tells him that their EM field is rising, and so he and Tanith tell the people at the Stonehenge to evacuate. And Stonehenge is spinning again, and this is about, I think, a day or a day and a half after the first time. And CGI henge explodes once more, frying this poor guy in his suit. It didn't help. But at least these three people were cowering behind this here landing, and they're okay. I don't remember Land Rovers being nuclear zapping proof, but hey. Also, it's worth noting that Castiel was too cool to run, and so he just stood there looking like Castiel, and obviously very sure that he is the main character in this movie, and so he won't die. I mean, at least Casey survives. Yay. Then we cut to the Yucatan in Mexico, and apparently this is now happening consecutively. This is not the opening montage anymore. This is happening the way it's playing out. And in Yucatan, Mexico, a very bad CGI pyramid explodes in very bad CGI explosion. When the scientists are back at the elementary school, Tanith, the fearsome leader, I don't know why he is there even. I think he's just there to be the antagonist. Anyway, he tells Casey that they shouldn't be concerned with Mexico exploding at the exact same time that the henge moved, because... And, look, Peter Wingfield, Tanith, is trying to act here, and I can't believe that Tori Higginson has had some acting lessons. She's literally the only one who ever looks like she's been in front of a camera before, and she's giving it her all. They both are. And she especially has some very nice reaction faces, which is jarring because these people aren't the main characters. Castiel is, and he's just absent. Speaking of, he's still roaming out free. around Stonehenge where it's crawling with soldiers. And I don't know, at this point I have a theory that the UK has like a total of 4 soldiers. That's it, there are 4 soldiers in the UK. And we jump back to Maine, where Apophis Light is looking for a badly expositioned Chamber of the Sun with a sidekick who really can't act. And she is credited as Foreman. And according to IMDb, although she wasn't in Stargate, she was in a lot of other stuff. So I guess she should be able to act. The director just didn't require it from her in this movie. And back to CGI Henge, and Castiel is literally walking up to the stones in broad daylight. Not a single soldier in sight. He also randomly picks up the radioactive soil. Yeah, because he's that type of. And then we jump to one of the scenes that confuses me about Casey's credentials. I don't know what she's supposed to be a specialist in. And this guy is David. He's supposed to be a geophysicist, but now he's asking her to identify a single-celled organism. And I don't think geophysics covers that, although I'm not a geophysicist, and whatever Casey is, she apparently knows what the single-celled organism is. And back at Stonehenge, Castiel has a new MacGafter, and this one shows him the invisible print on the altar stone that Tanith showed the Major earlier. Very convenient. It is at this point where 3 out of England's 4 soldiers finally roll up in their Land Rover and arrest him. Back in the lab, Casey and David show Tanith the little creature, the single-celled organism, and he also apparently knows something about it, and he says it is very intriguing, but they should just be concentrating on the geomagnetic data. And I don't know what his job is either. None of it makes sense. At this point, they do have a moment where Casey and Castiel walk past one another, but he's still ranting and she kind of ignores him. And it is here where the movie 100% steals from Independence Day. Like Independence Day, they have like this frequency cycling into extinction, creating a very convenient countdown, which was cool in 1990, 95? But this is 2010, so this has been done. And anyway, our countdown is 37 hours. This will be important. At this point, the Major brings in Castiel's stuff, and at first Tanith waves it away, but then David insists on looking at it, and it is then he who shows Tanith and Casey the map that Castiel has been carrying with him. It surprises no one, I suppose, at this point, that Tanith waves it away as pseudoscience. But then again, this entire movie is built on this most pseudoscience out there. And yeah, well, at least Casey is willing to take a look at it. And she draws some connection between Stonehenge and Maine. I mean, it's right there, and she notices it. And she also sees there's a line between Stonehenge and the Yucatan, where the pyramid just exploded. And I feel at this point, with the information they have, this might actually be important. But Tanith, he just asks, who is this guy you got this from? And the Major answers that it's Castiel, Dr. Jacob Glazer. And Tanith then goes like, a scientist, my Aunt Fanny. I mean, I suppose you're not allowed to swear in this movie. And then he refers to this discovery of the aliens on the moon, to which, the correct comeback would be, it wasn't alien, it was a robot head. At least David disagrees with Tanith, not on the robot head, but that Castiel is not just a crackpot, mentioning that he was the youngest ever recipient of the Privilege Award for Astrophysics. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correct, because it's not an actual award, so I'm just repeating what I heard. I do actually, yes, there. Castiel is carrying around a ring around his neck. That's important. The cameras have zoomed in on it several times, and it's been consistently there. And if you still needed context, that is the Privilege Award. It's not a little statue or a little glass thing. It's the ring. I don't know why it's not on his finger, but yeah, there it is. And at this point, we get to see what Casey's real reason is for being in this movie. See, she's the one championing Castiel. Although David also toots his horn a little bit, it is Casey who will enable Castiel to save the day. She's the one who talks with him, and she's the one who gives him time for some exposition. He, with his single expression, decides to answer her by being a condescending douche. Yeah, really, she's literally the only one who's been taking him seriously in, I don't know, years, and he's being a condescending douche. Is douche, would douche be a bad word? I don't know. I feel there are worse words. Anyway, he's all of them. I don't like him. And he takes the time, though, to explain that the olden people, the olden people, built pyramids on the ley lines, or the electromagnetic grid surrounding the Earth. And for all of you who are unfamiliar with this, this is very X-Filesy. In the late 90s, when the X-Files became big, there was the unknown, a rise in interest in the unknown, and there were books and everything. And one of the unknowns, one of the Earth mysteries or whatever, was the ley lines, this electromagnetic grid. So it's built on an existing thing, although we don't know that the thing is a thing. It's a pseudoscience type of thing. And then, of course, as I mentioned earlier, there was also this theory that there was an olden civilization, or a connection, a group of civilizations which were interconnected. Yeah, that's basically what this is all about, if you're too young to have watched X-Files. And now, well, interestingly, back to our story, there isn't a pyramid in Maine, although all the others have pyramids, but there isn't a pyramid in Maine. And for once, or for a moment, this movie is smarter than it has been up to now. Or maybe it's just Casey. I'm willing to say it might just be Casey. And she asks him why there isn't a pyramid in Maine. Like, there's a line between Stonehenge and Maine, but there isn't a pyramid. And Castiel's snarky answer is that's just because nobody has discovered it yet. And I mean, does he know where Apophis Light and his gang are digging? I don't know if he knows. It's not clear. I feel he should be knowing, and that this is a jab to say that, yeah, Apophis Light will get it, but I don't know. And while putting this together, I caught it for the first time, but he does make a little list of places, of civilizations who did build pyramids, which would be Mexico, Egypt, Indonesia, Stonehenge, and apparently Maine. And keep that in mind, because we'll actually be coming back to it. And but this also illustrates this exchange also illustrates why I feel this is some kind of second-year screenwriting thing. I mean, the movie is atrocious, and it has been atrocious up to now. And yet here, if not brilliance, at least there's some insight into how movies work. I mean, you have a map that points to Maine. Well, that's going to be important later. And you have a list of sites with pyramids, and yeah, that's going to be important later. It's like they know in theory that if you drop a factoid, it needs to be important later. It's just too bad that the plot is not that good, and that their main actor is Castiel, who has all the charm of a potato. I mean, and not fried chips potato. He's like bland mashed potato. He doesn't sell intelligence. He just looks annoyed and bored and, in need of a shave. In short, he looks like Castiel from Supernatural without the trench coat. He also pertinently tells Casey that the EM pulse that he picked up coming from Maine must have triggered the events at Stonehenge, again making the opening montage even more stupid. Casey takes the time to inform him that a pyramid in the Yucatan exploded, and they talk a little bit about the bugs in the soil. And then she just leaves. I mean, he still talks to her in this very condescending way, but when she's called away, she just leaves. I would have, she's obviously willing to put up with a lot more bovine excrement than me. And the movie segues into utter stupidity. See, a helicopter which is dependent on its computers, stuff which can't be scrambled by electromagnetic pulses. Yeah, that kind of helicopter is flying over to Stonehenge. Stonehenge, who is emitting EM pulses which could fry the computer. And it has a mobile radar dangling beneath it, trying to penetrate the soil. And first, they already said, the exposition lady said, that they could not penetrate the earth with ground penetrating sonar because there is too much EM interference. And I actually don't know how radar would work in this. I don't think it would give off anything. I mean, radar doesn't penetrate, it just bounces back off of stuff. Like, it tells you there's a thing, not what's inside the thing. So I don't know why there's a radar, and I don't know why they are bringing a helicopter into this. What did the helicopter do to you? And yeah, it went about as well as you could expect. The radar sent out a signal, and CGI Henge reacted, and it exploded, and some very fake explosion. Yes, there's a big bang, but no pieces. So anyway, that's how good that plan worked. I could have told them. And you should also note that this was the RAF's only helicopter, the Royal Air Force. Yeah, the British Air Force's only helicopter, because from now on, all the flying Medudats will be American flying Medudats, American planes, American helicopters, and no, you know what? I am not the one dissing on either the English or the Americans. Someone else did it when they wrote this script. So, enter General Forshaw. As you can see from his little shoulder patch, an American, although actually a Canadian, also a Stargate alumnus, and the actor, although the actor has passed away by now. And General Forshaw's only job is to add a little bit more exposition and to go over some of the older exposition, just so we know where we are. And his only really cool thing is that he says that in my world, when something is counting down, it usually ends in a boom, and that's cool. I really like that. I think I want that printed on a t-shirt. Anyway, though the movie is far from done, I don't even think this is the end of the first act. I know this is getting long. I know I have a habit of just getting sidetracked. This is already way off script. So I'm gonna break here. I will be posting this, and then there will be 2 or 3 extra parts, and maybe afterwards I'll have a little bit of a reflection, although don't hold your breath for that. But yeah, I'll be back soon with part 2. And yeah, if you like this, I mean, do the like, comment, and share thing. And until then, bye.